Meet my energy!
Hello again, folks. Welcome back. Please take a seat, hang your coats up, order whatever you like, because we have a nice file ready to crack open for you guys. This one is going to be fun because it is the first case we see our four main characters, Yusuke, Kuwabara, Kurama, and Hiei, go on together as a group. And that is the Four Saint Beast arc, or the Beast of Maze Castle arc, whatever you want to call this arc. You know what it's about. This one's fun. I grow to appreciate it every time I read or watch this arc. It wasn't one of my favorites growing up, but being an adult, I always kind of take more and more out of it than I did the previous time. And it's not anything super deep or super complex, especially when compared to the big major arcs, like when you have the Dark Tournament and Chapter Black. But there's some substance to take out of these arcs. It lays out the groundwork for a lot of our characters, and it shows us, you know, the paths they take to come from here on. So please enjoy yourselves, get comfortable, and I do have a little something I want to say before we get started, so I'll get to that right now. Now, to the small amount of people who are subscribed to the channel, first of all, I appreciate you guys a lot. Thank you for subscribing, checking out the videos, and showing support. It really motivates me to make more of these. I want to say sorry for the delays in these videos, especially this one. Usually I've been popping out a video every 3 weeks. Didn't get this one out on time just because exhaustion from a lot of stuff. I came back from a trip with my fiance from Vegas, and I went right back to, you know, working my normal job. So I ended up being really burnt out, and I have a lot of other stuff to get to, so I postponed it. But I feel great now, and I'm ready to crank out this content and get it done. But I want to say for these two things. One, I'm gonna try a different format style for the video. I'm basically still gonna do the whole thing with the anime episode summaries, the manga comparisons, my overall thoughts, all of that. But for the images, I think I'm not really going to do those anymore. I know they're like super low effort, so it's like, why wouldn't you do them? It's just like, I feel like these are more podcasty oriented things. Like, these are stuff you're gonna listen to rather than see visually. So unless I do go the extra mile and start adding more detailed video visuals, like you know, seconds of footage from the anime, moments like that, a lot of other specific manga panels, which I may do down the line for other content once the channel can get a little more stable and I get a little more comfortable with video editing and things like that. I'm gonna do that, but I don't really see the point in doing kind of like the low effort stuff, because it's not like anything special is being shown on the screen other than things you could watch or read yourself. So I'm gonna leave it as more of a podcasty thing, especially if you have like the YouTube Premium app. You can just put it in your pocket and listen to the video and listen to me talk about Yu Yu Hakusho for an hour. So the only image I'll have, I'll probably make, like, you know, when I make the thumbnails for the arc, that'll just be the image shown throughout the video. So that's one thing. If you are feeling that, let me know. If you're not feeling it, let me know. Let me know, like, oh, I'd rather you just do, like, you know, the low effort images from the anime episodes and the manga covers and all of that. And I can go back to doing that, but it's just something I want to try out. It'll probably help me get the videos out a lot easier too, because then I don't have to spend nearly as much time editing them. Like I said, it's low effort, but it still takes a little bit of time to even do that. So if I just have like one image to paste over the audio for a video format, it's going to be a lot quicker to crank these out, especially when I'm putting more time into getting these done, which is the second thing. I'm probably going to take a break after, not this video, but the next video when we do the Yukina rescue arc. I want to try to have that done and out by June 3rd. So 2 weeks from this video going up, I want to have the Yukina rescue arc out. I probably can do that. The Yukina rescue arc is super short. It's like 4 episodes of the anime and like 6 manga chapters, I think. I can't remember. But get that done just so we have season 1 completely finished. And then I'm going to be taking June off because I'm getting married. And then I have my honeymoon. And then, you know, my girl's going to be moving in with me on the 1st of June too. So we're going to just be spending that month getting comfortable, taking time to relax, you know, being a lovey-dovey newlywed couple. And I want to take the time to give to her, because that's only fair. And I don't want to burn out. I was getting tired. I was getting near burnout on a lot of other projects I do, including this one. So I want to take the time to breathe, air everything out. I know for a fact, like the few projects I'm doing, I can still do consistently together. I just never really built up a schedule that worked. I was kind of all over the place with it. So once I'm like, I can do this week, this week, this week, that way I can still get videos out for Yu Yu Hakusho stuff, but it'll probably be every 2 weeks instead of 3 weeks, maybe even weekly. Who knows? We'll see how it goes. But those are my only 2 announcements. So yeah, expect this after this video, one more video on June 3rd, and then I'll come back at some point in July, and we will start breaking down the Dark Tournament. That's going to be fun. That's going to take up a lot of time. We'll probably do videos round by round rather than like a whole arc. That'll be the first arc we break into pieces, so that's going to be fun to do. But anywho, that's it. Sorry for the delay. And let's get to the video, to the case. So, the Force Name Beast arc takes place over the course of 8 anime episodes. It's episodes 14 through 21. So, 8 episodes of the anime, and it is 14 chapters of the manga. It is chapters 33 to 44. So, if you want to watch those and read those manga chapters before, if you haven't already, before watching the video, go ahead and do so, because as always, these videos are not to substitute watching or reading the original series. They are to supplement and complement watching and reading the original series. So you're going to want to have that source material in your head before you watch these, because this is just me summarizing stuff, going over differences between the mediums, and just giving my overall thoughts of the arc. So without further ado, let's get it cracking. Sorry, quick edit. That was not 14 manga chapters. It's 12 manga chapters. 33 through 44 is 12 manga chapters. My fault, guys. Okay, episode 14, The Beast of Maze Castle. We open up the episode with Keiko visiting Yusuke's house. His mom, Atsuko, again telling Keiko that Yusuke is still not home. Now, interesting, in the dub of the anime, Atsuko notes that Yusuke has been gone for 6 months. In the sub of the anime, I believe it only says he's been gone for about a month. So there's a big time difference there. I don't know why the dub chose to say 6 months. Maybe to make it feel like the impact of his training was much greater. But in the sub, it says a month. And in the manga, we have some more difference with that, but I'll get to that when I get to that later. So as that conversation ends, Yusuke shows up walking down the road. He's all bruised, but he's back in town. We cut to Keiko, Yusuke, and Kuwabara out in the city. Keiko's getting some ice creams for them. Yusuke and Kuwabara are talking at the bench. Yusuke noting that Kuwabara looks better. Kuwabara saying he feels even stronger than ever, even remarking that he might even be able to take Yusuke on now. Yusuke tells him, nah, that's not gonna happen, my guy. And when Kuwabara asks about the training, we get a flashback scene to a part of Yusuke's training where he has to balance on a metal spike using his spirit energy to keep it from impaling his finger. Genkai then notes that he has to stay in that position for 12 hours. He also has to deflect energy attacks from Genkai using his own spirit energy to defend himself, getting blown away, and she remarks that they'll keep doing it until he does not move. It does come back to the current time, Yusuke noting all the other crazy shit Genkai had him do for training, Kuwabara feeling really uncomfortable about it. They go on to hang out with Keiko. Keiko saying, hey, let's go see a movie. And as they're walking, Yusuke notes that they're being followed. That's why he has himself and Kuwabara make an excuse to break away from Keiko, saying they'll be right back. Thinking that these guys are just simple thugs, Yusuke and Kuwabara don't seem to be sweating it all too much what's about to happen. They're just going to beat these guys up and go about their day. Then they pull knives. It starts to look like these guys are also a little unhinged. They look a little crazy, a little cuckoo. And just when things look like they're about to get super heated up, Yusuke cools the situation down quickly with one of the new techniques that he learned from Genkai, the shotgun. Now, the shotgun is a very popular technique for Yu Yu Hakusho fans. Not as popular as the spirit gun, of course, but people do love the shotgun, especially the way it's set in the dub from Yusuke's voice actor. So this was, always a fun moment to see. The shotgun channels energy in Yusuke's fist, and as he fires it forward, it's like he's spreading a wave of smaller spirit gun blasts out in front of him all at once, like a shotgun blast. Therefore, that's the name. So as they're doing that, Kuwabara feels like they're being watched by somebody due to his sixth sense. He looks over, and I always love this scene. He's like over there, that guy. And there's some demon dude in a trench coat and a hat just kind of watching them. And he runs off, so the chase goes on. He's laid out right when they meet up with Botan, who's laid the dude out with a baseball bat. So as he passes out, Yusuke and Kuwabara are confused to see why she's here, and the fans are not confused. They're excited because Botan's wearing one of their fan favorite outfits. That's right, the red jacket with the pants, looking real sleek, looking real sexy with the baseball bat slung over the shoulder. People go crazy for this outfit. It's really cool. Reminds me of kind of like a Michael Jackson Beat It kind of get up. And so, so she pops up and starts giving them the rundown on the situation. The reason why those thugs were acting really weird and pulled knives on Yusuke and Kuwabara was because they were being controlled by these strange insects from the Makai, called the Makai insects. Go figure. These insects were set out by a group of demons from a place known as Maze Castle. They live in Maze Castle because they're technically imprisoned there in the demon city. In this demon city around the area, the demons around that area, let me rephrase that. The demons around the area of the castle worship these demons almost as if they were saints, thus giving them the title the Four Saint Beast. They're using these insects via the power of something known as the Makai Whistle to possess human minds and cause destruction and havoc in the world of the living. They're pretty much holding Earth hostage, saying they'll give up the flute if Spirit World gives them access to the living world. This, of course, is not good, and Koema does not want to fucking do this. If these guys were granted access to the living world, it would cause a whole lot of trouble for innocent people. These guys are the most powerful demons we've seen so far in the series, even more so threatening than Rando. And though I'm not a big fan of Rando, as I said in the last episode, Rando was a pretty big threat that they were really worried about when Yusuke had to confront him. So knowing that there are 4 demons who could all come out at once, more threatening than Rando, is a really bad situation. So Yusuke is forced to go into the demon city to Maze Castle, take these guys out, and get the whistle. Kuwabara ends up going too, Botan trying to act like nothing crazy's happening, but Kuwabara does a manly speech like the goat he is, saying that he's gonna do it because he's Kuwabara, and in case you guys haven't noticed, he has a sword. So Yusuke and Kuwabara dive in, Kuwabara very, very confidently diving in, Yusuke reluctantly jumping in this secret entrance that leads to the demon city. They land just on the outskirts of it, looking at the castle in the distance, when they are attacked by these residents around the demon city known as Fugaki. These guys are like demon gremlin sand people, like think sand people from Star Wars but demonic. That's pretty much what they are, and they dogpile Yusuke and Kuwabara as the two tried to fight them off. There's just too many, and it looks like they're going to be eaten. Just then, we see 2 lights come through as thunder crackles in the sky. These lights scare the Fugaki off, and who are these lights? Of course, it's none other than Hiei and Kurama, who have come to join the fight. They have come under Koema's orders, being granted, shorter sentences, probation, things like that, for their cooperation. If you forgot 2 arcs back, during the 3 treasures arc, or the 3 monsters arc, as I called it, Kurama and Hiei were 2 of the 3 that stole these 3 sacred items from Spirit World. Kurama turned himself in after the Forlorn Hope was used to help his mom, with Yusuke's interference thus saving Kurama's life, and Hiei was arrested after Yusuke, with a lucky break of bouncing his spirit gun off the said Forlorn Hope, was able to beat Hiei and save Keiko from being turned into a demon. So now these two are on our side, for now at least. And I think one thing to note is you'll see a very noticeable change in Hiei. He is not the same character per se as he was when he was first introduced. And that's because Hiei was not supposed to really be a main character. You know, he was only going to be that bad guy. So there had to kind of be a personality shift to make him fit with the main cast. So you'll see that Hiei's still kind of like the stoic, edgy type, but he's definitely more honorable, more chilled out. He's not like saying this crazy evil shit that he was saying during the Three Monsters arc when he was introduced. It is a notable character shift, but they do have reasons for why that could be that I'll explain as we get further into the arc. So we get our introductions and we start getting classic dynamics like Hiei not giving a damn about Kuwabara and thinking down on him. Kuwabara, of course, getting upset with him and, trying to attack him. Hiei too fast for him, only worried about a rematch with Yusuke. Kurama being the smart, cool, straight man of the group, just, trying to keep it together, and Yusuke hyped as he leads the charge and they head to Mei's castle. They enter the entrance and are greeted by a floating eyeball. This floating eyeball welcomes them, and as they walk through the entrance, this little tunnel into the castle, the eyeball flies to the other side and drops the ceiling on top of them, forcing the four to hold it up with all their strength. This is called the Gate of Betrayal. The Gate of Betrayal is able to read and calculate the weight and strength of people who walk through it, giving just the right amount of weight for people to hold up. Eventually, these people will be crushed, but there is enough wiggle room for one person to escape to the end if they are quick enough to do so, leaving the others to die. That is why it's called the Gate of Betrayal. This already is sowing seeds of doubt amongst our party, as none of them are really a team. Yusuke and Kuwabara know each other well enough, but they're not exactly friends yet. They're more rivals that have become more well acquainted with each other due to the events that have been happening recently. Kurama's not a bad guy, but he's not really an official ally yet, and Hiei doesn't trust or care about any of these people. So now we have a really bad situation where one person could betray the group. But Yusuke has faith in Hiei, knowing that he is the fastest of the group. But that gets saved for next episode, but technically, no it doesn't, because the next episode preview, like it always does, spoils moments like this. It's really weird, but episode 14 ends with them holding up the wall with possibly no hope in sight. Episode 15, Genbu, the Stone Beast. So, episode 15 opens up with our heroes already about to die being crushed by a giant ceiling. But Yusuke has faith in Hiei. He knows that Hiei is the fastest of the team, and that the lever at the end will stop the wall stop the ceiling from crushing them. Hiei is the fastest person, he can get across the quickest, buying them enough time for Yusuke to keep the ceiling up, holding up his weight and Hiei's weight. Hiei can turn the switch off, they're all safe. Hiei goes for it, Yusuke holds it up, and there is a notable scene of Yusuke powering up all the energy he has to hold up that portion of weight along with his own, and we see red energy around them. Now, a lot of fans have noted that this is an early sign that Yusuke is part demon. I personally disagree, but I won't get too much into it until I get to my personal thoughts. I think it's a happy coincidence in that the anime didn't officially really have these colors down packed to what they wanted them to be in terms of like spirit energy and demon energy. So, but we'll get to that when we get to that, and I'll more so discuss it then. But Hiei gets to the end and he hesitates just before pulling the lever. This immediately worries Kuwabara, saying that he knew he was going to betray them, and the eyeball laughs and mocks him too, and then he whispers over to Hiei that the weight would have crushed him anyway if he pulled the lever. Hiei then makes his move, drawing his sword and slashing across the giant eye, damaging it but not killing it. Hiei then pulls the lever And as he tells the eyeball to, get the fuck out of here and tell your master that I'm not going to bow down to them. The eyeball trying to bribe Hiei into, not pulling the lever, even more so saying that, hey, the Beast of Maze Castle will love to have you here, Hiei. You could even join up with them, be one of their generals. Hiei wasn't having it. As he pulls the lever, a boulder then does fall and almost crushes him, but Hiei's too quick for it. Knowing that it's coming too makes it easier to dodge, which the anime makes it seem like that's why he hesitated to pull the lever. So the team gets through. Yusuke was, remarks confidently that, hey, Hiei, I knew you were going to do that. I knew you'd come through. Cool, we did it. So now our team officially enters Maze Castle, and it isn't too long after that we encounter our first Saint Beast. Now, these episode breakdowns should be a lot quicker because I'm just going to be going over these fights, and the first episode was just to lay everything out, so let's try to get through these, in a timely fashion while still getting over all the nitty-gritty details. So, we enter a room. It just kind of looks like a long cavernway leading to, the next stairway up, the next door. And then they encounter Genbu, who comes out from the stone floor as if merged with it. He is, in fact, a giant stone demonic beast, kind of looking like a demon turtle made of rock. I mean, he is Genbu. Genbu is noted. We have those 4 cardinal direction-based things like Genbu, Byakko, Seiryu, and Suzaku. And Genbu is a turtle. So there you go. That's his origins. So Kurama volunteers to fight first, noting that he'll be able to make a better strategy and look for their weak points. So he steps up. Genbu's tail melts into the floor, appears next to Kurama from the stone floor, and strikes him, landing a blow across his stomach. And it looks pretty gross. It's not too deep, but it doesn't look like a normal person would be able to keep walking after getting hit by that. Genbu then melds into the ground and starts doing this strategy of coming out from different places in the floor and in the walls trying to grab Kurama. This is Genbu's key power. He's made of stone. He can fuse in with other stone, and he's able to freely move about the castle, talk to demons outside the castle and gather info, and that's what makes him a threat. Kurama is playing dodge most of the fight, avoiding hits from his tail, grabs from his hands, things like that. When Kurama does finally decide to make the offensive, he pulls a rose from his hair. And the boys are not too impressed by this. The boys, I mean Yusuke and Kuwabara. But then Kurama turns the rose into his signature move, the iconic rose whip, which isn't impressing them any further than it already was as just a rose, due to the fact, like, what is a whip gonna do to stone? But Hiei remarks that, nah, y'all shouldn't be worried about him. Y'all should be worried about Genbu, pretty much. Hiei states that the reason he wanted Kurama as an ally, excuse me, is because he did not want him as an enemy. Seeing Kurama as a more cutthroat guy than even Hiei could be, though Hiei says he could beat him, he would rather not even risk the fight, which is why he chose to team up with him. So Genbu goes for the attack, Kurama goes for his rose whip lash, and breaks Genbu into pieces. It looks like the fight is instantly over, Kuwabara remarking what a pushover Genbu was, but then Hiei remarking that he only lost that fast because of how skilled Kurama was. And then says that Kuwabara would have died in under a minute. Which, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Just due to the events that happen in the next 2 episodes. But we'll leave it at that. I think Hiei was just underestimating Kuwabara. I think Kuwabara had the stuff for it. It would have been a longer fight, definitely. But Kurama states the fight's not over, as Genbu is able to put himself back together from even those stone bits being broken apart. Furthermore, he can shatter himself into smaller pieces and attack in a barrage of pebbles and stone. Now, that might not sound too threatening, but imagine these rocks being hurled at you with incredible force. They're starting to slash and chip and cut and scrape across Kurama, and Kurama can hardly defend against them because there's so many. Kurama even goes as far as to try to break them down into even smaller pieces, but even that doesn't work. Genbu has complete control over his stone body, and things are looking bad as Kurama's whip might be able to cut through stone and steel. Genbu is living rock, and it doesn't matter how much he's broken down until Kurama finds his opening. Genbu reforms after another barrage of attacks, only to realize that he's built himself in a ridiculous way. His head, where his groin would be, his tail on top, legs on top everywhere, to which Yusuke and Kuwabara laughed their asses off. It's a very classic panel, a very classic little scene in the anime of them laughing at Genbu like that. And so Kurama's just like, nah, son. See, you may be able to reform yourself, but to reform yourself right, you're gonna need this. Holding up a glowing red rock. Now, this glowing red rock is Genbu's core. It's like his brain, essentially. Genbu begs for Kurama to give it back, but Kurama tosses it up in the air and splits it in half with his whip, causing Genbu to explode into dust, thus giving Team Urameshi their first W in Mei's Castle, and the Saint Beast their first loss in Dead Member. But Kurama did suffer a pretty nasty little injury there, as well as the other cuts he got from when Genbu was throwing his barrage of rock body pebble storm thing. So now he is a little worried because Kurama is down for now at least, and he's going to need a lot of time to rest, leaving only 3 of them to fight, and he does not see Kuwabara as a viable option. So the episode ends there. The other 3 Saint Beasts in the darkness remarking that Genbu's weak as fuck. It was okay that he lost. No one really cares. It was expected. We only let him hang out because he could move about outside the castle through his stone ability and talk to the demons outside and get info. So we're going to see this trend a lot, that the Saint Beasts don't really see themselves as a team or have like a team bond. It's more of just like, yeah, we're the 4 strongest out here in this area. We're just going to work with this, but one demon's always using another demon's always using another demon, and Genbu just happened to be at the bottom of that totem pole. Poor Genbu, but fuck Genbu. Episode 16, Byakko, the White Tiger. This is one of my favorite episodes in this arc, and one reason being the GOAT, the legend, Kazuma Kuwabara is fighting. Now, as they're traveling towards their next destination in the castle, Hiei, like I said before, remarks that we only have 3 fighters left, and he does not think Kuwabara is all that reliable. Kuwabara is of course annoyed by this and starts showing off the fruits of his training. He of course was training while Yusuke was gone too. He wasn't just sitting around letting Yusuke get stronger without him. And while his training is not as effective as Yusuke's, of course, because Yusuke trained with Genkai, Kuwabara has shown some amazing growth on his own. He's able to form his spirit sword without the use of that wooden sword piece as a conduit, and he's even able to extend it as if it was a spear by saying, "Sword get longer," the greatest line command ever in the history of anime. Don't at me, I don't make the rules. So Kuwabara also does show signs of getting a little dizzy after he did the sword get longer kind of extension. So he's not leaving Yusuke very hopeful of his abilities and kind of impressed by his abilities at the same time. Just then, after we have this little comedic moment of a breather, we hear roaring outside. And that leads our team to go outside, and we encounter Byakko, the second of the 4 Saint Beasts. Byakko is a giant white tiger, because the 4 cardinal directions, Byakko is a giant white tiger. There's your lore lesson. Kuwabara steps up, and Byakko feels kind of insulted that they're going to choose to fight him one by one and send Kuwabara out first. Kuwabara's legs are shaking, but he does not back down, stepping up to the plate. Byakko does not step down, however, choosing to send minions to fight him, pulling out pieces of his hair and forming him into these weird demon cat monster things that fight Kuwabara. There's 4 of them and 1 of him, and as he tries to strike them down with his spirit sword, he's not able to land an attack. He is not skilled enough of a swordsman, swinging his sword around like it was a baseball bat or a tennis racket. I mean, Kuwabara's namesakes come from a lot of baseball-related terms, so it makes sense why he'd be swinging his sword like that. But his clunkiness and the speed of these demons make it almost impossible for him to land a blow. All the while they're evading his sword swings, they're slashing at his body, causing damage to build up over time. There are 4 of them. This whole time, Yusuke is begging Kuwabara to switch with him, not trying to break his pride, saying it's just more practical if someone like Yusuke, who has the shotgun, step up and fight, because he could hit multiple targets at once, which is technically correct, but of course, Yusuke is also worried about Kuwabara. Kuwabara is a normal guy. May have this psychic sixth sense, but he wasn't hired on a spirit detective. He's just a middle school kid. He's a thug. He has a heart of gold, and he knows that Kuwabara might just not be fucking built for this. Little did this cast know, Kuwabara is in fact very much built for this, able to take a beating and still get up. Hiei even remarks that it's noble that Kuwabara even tried this far, but he should switch and keep his life. As they keep egging him on and begging him to switch out, Kuwabara comes to the realization of something. And this is where Kuwabara really starts to shine as a character when it comes to utilizing his abilities. Kuwabara is a character who doesn't like using his sixth sense. He went to Genkai's compound in order to see if she could turn his powers way down or help him with the seeing of spirits. But now he's forced to rely on his abilities, already going about it himself to improve and strengthen them in the form of his spirit sword and his ability to extend it. But now he's going to use it to his advantage in a new strategy. He runs back down the narrow platform that he came to the main fighting arena in, the beast chasing him down. Once he gets far enough across, he turns around, points his sword forward, and says, "Sword, get longer," impaling all 4 beasts at the same time, shocking and impressing everyone a good bit. Byakuya, however, finds it not really impressive because the beasts are still moving. They're still alive, attached to Kuwabara's spirit sword. Kuwabara runs all the way back to the other group, to our main group, where the tower they came up in was. It's a circular tower entrance. Kuwabara starts running around in a circle. Hiei even joking that Kuwabara is too stupid to realize he's running in a circle. But as he does this, we see the base of his spirit sword stretch and kind of curve and hug the angle of the spherical tower entrance. As Kuwabara reaches the other end of it, he connects both ends of his spirit sword together, twist and seal, and we have our most famous attack in anime, or in the top 3, in my opinion, the Spirit Sword Monster Beast Donut. Having these 4 demons chained in an endless circle of his spirit energy around the spire. Kuwabara had outsmarted them and defeated them, knowing that he could not beat them by normal means. This does now anger Byakuya, who does jump down from where he was to face Kuwabara one-on-one back at the main arena. The fight begins, Byakuya throwing shots, but Kuwabara proving to be a step ahead, avoiding these blows and landing several spirit sword swings directly onto Byakuya. It looks like Kuwabara has the upper hand in the fight, but then something starts to seem off. Kuwabara is the one landing all the blows, but he's the one that looks tired, exhausted, not ready to fight any further, while Byakuya still looks like he's got energy to spare and then some. It almost looks like he's getting bigger. It then comes to the realization of everyone that Byakuya is draining Kuwabara's spirit energy every time Kuwabara swings his sword at him. Byakuya is able to eat and absorb this energy and add it to his own strength, getting a little bigger in size. Kuwabara finally realizes this, but he doesn't want to back down. Powering up his spirit sword with more energy so it can keep its normal size, but his energy still continues to drain. As the episode ends, things are looking very, very bad for Kuwabara. Episode 17, Byakuya's Lair, or as I like to call it, Kuwabara's stomping ground, because Kuwabara about to get up in that ass, right? You thought Kuwabara was on the losing end of this exchange? No. Let's get back to the fight, shall we? So Kuwabara's energy looks like it's consistently draining. His sword starting to look more like a spirit knife. As he continues to attack Byakko, and Byakko continues to drain his energy, Kurama notes that if Kuwabara has figured out something that he himself has figured out, then he might be able to still beat Byakko. And it looks like Kuwabara has, directly stabbing his sword into Byakko's stomach and allowing him to drain that energy. Kuwabara, completely weakened and almost drained of all his spirit energy, falls to the ground. It looks like he's going to be defeated. Byakko notes that he feels so full and he's never had that much energy drained off of someone, impressed by Kuwabara's large spirit energy reserves. It probably adds on to the fact as to why Kuwabara's body is so durable in the first place. His natural sixth sense gives him a naturally large spirit energy pool, is what I assume it is. As Byakko goes for the finishing stomp, something happens. His stomach noticeably starts to hurt and swell even bigger. He was looking larger, but still like a giant beast. But now he looked very fat, very overweight, very chubby, very chunky, you know? And his stomach's growling and he's shaking and he doesn't know what's wrong. Kuwabara smiles as he sits up. And he's like, my sister always said you should never eat too much in one sitting. Byakko then burst. Not like explodes. A lot of people think he exploded in this scene. And it kind of looks like that in the anime, so I'll give them that, that. But if you look closely in the anime at this scene, it's more like he pops or like farts out the gas of that is the spirit energy that he ate. Because after that big boom we see, you can see Byakko's body falling off the arena and down into a lower level somewhere. You have to look, but you can see it. It's not like that hard to find. I just think people aren't really paying attention to that distance shot because they're more looking at the aftermath of the explosion. But he does fall down. It's not like his body burst and disappeared, because people do sometimes question how he just appeared later if he blew up. He didn't blow up, technically. Technically, he had a really big fart of spirit energy. So once that's done, Yusuke clowns that, Byakko had a bad case of gas. He is surprised that Kuwabara was actually able to pull it off, and Kurama, breaks things down about what happened. Kuwabara notes he's trying to get his spirit energy back that Byakko took, but Kurama also says that, nah, you should get it back naturally, dude, after Byakko pooted it all out. So they continue into Mei's castle, only to hear Byakko call for them again. This fight is not over. But do you think Kuwabara's scared? Do you think the goat has fear? He does. He absolutely does. But we enter Byakko's official lair, and it's a room full of boiling hot lava with platforms hanging over the top. So Yusuke's like, I'll take it from here, and Kuwabara's like, nah, my fight's not done. Hiei remarking that, look, you fought admirably, you did your thing, hang back, rest in case we do need you again, let Yusuke handle it. Kuwabara remarking that his code forbids it, Hiei scoffing at Kuwabara's sense of honor and his code. Something that I find funny for next episode. So Kuwabara jumps in, almost falling, playing it cool and playing it off, saying it's just kind of hot. He takes his jacket off. Byakko then does his true signature attack, the Tiger Scream. It looks like Byakko's hurling out a hairball of spirit energy, but Kuwabara doesn't seem too scared, about to swing his spirit sword at it to deflect it back. Kurama then shouts to Kuwabara that he shouldn't touch it and that he should get out of the way. Kuwabara does this just in time. The platform that he was previously standing on is hit by the Tiger Scream and disintegrates into nothing. Then Hiei and Kurama remark that they heard about a demon who could destroy molecular bonds with the sound of his voice, and that was Byakko. Now look, guys, I know a lot of people love hyping up Rando because of the 99 techniques, but clearly he lost on a combination of Yusuke's luck and his own lack of training to master these techniques. These guys are more of a threat than Rando. Spirit World noted that they were more of a threat than Rando. And this is why. This man's voice can break molecular bonds? What in the fuck? So Kuwabara is now playing a game of dodged the death ball as he's jumping from platform to platform as Byakuo fires these tiger screams at him. Byakuo also fires these sharp nails that he calls his tiger claws, furthering causing chip damage to Kuwabara in an attempt to have Kuwabara lose his balance and fall into the lava. Eventually, there's no platforms left for Kuwabara to stand on, except one way far out, the platform Byakuo is standing on. Byakuo's like, if you put your all into it, you might be able to make it to me, but then I'll just kill you. So Kuwabara goes for the leap, Byakuo laughing, noting that there's no way Kuwabara can make this jump. As Yusuke and the others think that Kuwabara is dead, Kuwabara pulls a goated move, using his spirit sword and extending it to bounce off one of the stones below near the lava, using his sword as a pole vault to catapult himself to the platform Byakuo is standing on. Kuwabara then says, "Let's go to hell together," delivering a heavy right hook to Byakuo's face as they both seemingly fall into the lava below. It looks like a double KO. It looks like they're both gone. Yusuke remarking how stupid this is. What's the point in saving the world if we have to die to do it? But Kuwabara noting that he lived and made it, using the cloth wrapped around his waist to pinch onto the side of the platform Byakuo was standing on. He managed to survive, Byakuo falling into the lava by himself. So the second Saint Beast has been defeated, and our team still has a clean party of 4. They do joke about leaving Kuwabara there, maybe having them lure the other 2 Saint Beasts here in order to pull off that same plan twice. Clearly joking with Kuwabara. Kuwabara saying, no, I did my fair share of fighting. You guys take care of the rest. And that's how we end episode 17. And that's why Kuwabara is the best character in the series. Episode 18, Seiryu, the Blue Dragon. This is going to be a quick one, I promise you, because so we start off with them, the team entering a room with a bunch of doors. Kurama noting that these were made for traps to lure people in at the sign of treasure, but if they go through the wrong door, they die due to the traps. Kuwabara uses his sixth sense to seek out the correct door. And he is like, how come we have to trust this guy? And Kuwabara's like, trust me, I know for a fact this is, something I'm good at. Then we get a gag of Kuwabara opening the door, seeing a mouse freaking out a little bit. But he did pick the right door. They move along. Now, since this episode is so short, I might as well note the B-plot that I haven't been touching on. This whole time, as the guys have been making their way through Mei's castle, Botan and Keiko have been fighting for their fucking lives. So Suzaku having information, Suzaku being the leader of the 4 Saint Beasts, having information about Yusuke, knows that him and Keiko are very close. So he sets all the Makai insect infected people to attack Keiko. Botan eventually finds her and attempts to help her escape through all these people after her, including Iwamoto, who was already a bad guy, but now he's just an infected bad guy. They try to go to Mr. Takanaka because he's a nice guy and probably can't get affected by the bugs, but he's already been knocked out. So this whole time, Botan and Keiko are in the school, running around, hiding in places, jumping out, doing their best to fight off the swarms of infected people after them. So they're playing defense and cat and mouse, while Yusuke and the others are racing to try to stop Suzaku. So now there's more on the line, and time is of the essence because Keiko is at risk of dying. Way more so than anyone else in the city currently, because all bad guys' eyes are on her. So we get to the 3rd Saint Beast room, and it is Seiryu, the Blue Dragon. Noted by his cardinal direction, Seiryu, the Blue Dragon. Now it looks like this one's going to be a little epic. Seiryu looks more humanoid than the first 2 Saint Beasts, Genbu being like a rock turtle demon thing, Byakuo being a demonic tiger giant in a loincloth. But Seiryu looks humanoid. He looks like a blue person. And he has like a dragon ornament over this like traditional Chinese looking garment he's wearing. He looks more refined. So it looks like things are about to amp up with these Saint Beasts. But before things can really get started, another person enters the fray. someone we already know about. That's right, Byakko. Byakko lived falling into lava. How he lived through falling into lava, I don't know. He's just that durable. I guess him and Kuwabara are the durable bunch of their crew, because this man fell into lava. I still don't understand to this day. But he is critically injured. He's barely holding up. He does not have enough strength to keep fighting, and he's begging Seiryu to lend him some power so together they can take these group of kids out. Seiryu feels that Byakko has disrespected the team, and he has disrespected himself, and he's nothing more than trash to them now. Seiryu then does his signature move, the Ice Dragon, freezing Byakko solid and breaking his head off of his body. Byakko cries in his last moments of being alive, a single tear falling from his eye, and then Seiryu spits on his head, his lifeless head. So now everyone's pissed off. Even, Yusuke and Kuwabara are knowing that that was an enemy, but dude, that's how you treat your team members? Like, the sign of disrespect has them pissed off to the max. And it looks like this man's about to get jumped when Hiei steps up, saying this is the one he'll take, telling Yusuke to save his energy for Suzaku. So, the battle starts. They go back and forth. Hiei throwing his cloak off, of course, because he has to be a shirtless anime hero. And leading to Seiryu noting, "Oh, so look at that. You looks like your feelings are hurt by what I did there to old boy. That's different, Hiei. You softened up." And Kurama notes that Hiei seems to have made his own sense of a code with its own complicated rules and virtues that only he understands. This is the shift we see in Hiei. Hiei's still very cold, very kind of like a stoic, edgy boy character, but he isn't for the fuckery like that. So as the fight begins, Hiei looks like he's mainly dodging Seiryu's Ice Dragon attack to not be frozen, but right at the end of the fight, which isn't too long, Hiei dashes forward and slices Seiryu 16 times. First, Seiryu's head starts splitting, and as Seiryu tries to keep himself together, more cuts form around his body, and in the anime, he explodes and dies. That fight is very quick, not a lot happens. Seiryu was hyped up to be very impressive, only for Hiei to show that it doesn't matter. He's Hiei, and he's just better than you. So, Hiei takes his cloak back, and, in a sense, fought to have at least Byakko die with some honor and respect, even though he doesn't state that. And the rest of the group stating that, like, damn, dude, we couldn't even see all the slashes. That's insane. And they play the shot back, because at first it looks like Hiei only swung one time. But yes, he did indeed swing 16 times and split Seiryu into pieces. So Yusuke's like, damn, you might even be able to beat me with that. To which Hiei does not have any comeback for. He's just like, yeah, maybe. And Kurama noting that, being around Yusuke, and a little bit more so now with Kuwabara, it's kind of changed him a little bit. He isn't like this goody two shoes guy, but he does have a stronger sense of honor and respect to a lot of things, and he actually likes Yusuke and Kuwabara to an extent, enough so to have some sort of respect for them, even though he would not say that himself. With 3 Saint Beasts down, only their leader Suzaku remains. Okay, so this last one's just the straight up fight between Yusuke and Suzaku with some other stuff happening all around. So I'm just going to go over them all together, this fight, and just kind of break through, summarize it, instead of going episode by episode, help things go a little bit quicker. This is going to be a bit of a longer episode just because we had a lot more content to get through. But yeah, let's get it. So episode 19, we have Suzaku, leader of the Saint Beast. Episode 20, we have 7 Ways to Die. And episode 21, Yusuke's Sacrifice. So as they're making their way to the tower, we get this really cool shot of the 4 running towards the tower. And it looks like this continuous animation shot. I just think they did a good job with how it looked. It looks really cool. It looks really epic. It's kind of one of those iconic moments from the arc. Now, before they can get to the entrance of the tower leading to Suzaku's room, a bunch of these weird green plant-looking people come out from underneath. These are cultivated humans. They are homegrown humans made to be slaves under Suzaku's bidding. It probably will take way too long for them to get past all of them, and Keiko's life is on the line here, as well as Botan's. So, the team comes up with a plan to get Yusuke through, and then they'll fend off the cultivated humans. They make a human ladder, Kuwabara at its base, then Kurama, then Hiei on top, as Yusuke runs off all their backs and leaps for the higher window entrance into the tower. He makes it, the team sees him off, and he goes to the top to face Suzaku. In Suzaku's room, we see a giant monitor displaying Keiko and Botan as they struggle to survive against these infected people. Suzaku playing the flute, and Suzaku's dub voice actor, can I just say, is fucking hilarious. It's the same voice actor as old boy from the very end of the Ordeal arc. You know, the guy that was being possessed by that little demon. I'm forgetting his name right now. Maybe I'll edit it in later. But same voice actor. And his voice, a lot of my friends I've shown Yu Yu Hakusho to, the dub, they'll laugh and remark about it. He's just like, I see, human, you're here. Yes. And people initially think it's bad. I think it works for Suzaku just because of who Suzaku is. And the more they fight, the more I really enjoy it. It's still kind of goofy to me, but I think it works. I think it works for the character well enough. This is our next major villain. So the fight between Yusuke and Suzaku begins. Yusuke running in to try to grab that whistle because Suzaku was talking that good shit about Keiko dying. And though Yusuke is throwing a fast barrage of punches that seem to be really, really fierce, Suzaku is able to fend them off with one hand, holding the Makai whistle with his other hand. Suzaku then jumps up into the air. Yusuke says, cool, open target, shoots his spirit gun, looking bigger and better than ever, I might add. This is the first time we've seen the spirit gun since Yusuke's training with Genkai. Before, we only saw the shotgun. So this massive blast that is the spirit gun now goes up into the air, aimed right towards Suzaku. Suzaku punches it and deflects it out to the top of his castle. Now, there's also something to note. Yusuke can fire up to 4 spirit gun shots a day now. So that's awesome. It's just, it's like he's got bullets in the clip now. So we're not the one a day kid that we used to be. Suzaku notes that was kind of impressive, seeing that his hand's a little numb. But then he's ready to counter with, this is cool. I really like Suzaku's powers and abilities. And this is the initial technique. Suzaku calls upon lightning from the open hole blasted into from the spirit gun. And as lightning rains down over him, he's able to mix it with his own demonic energy, making this orange lightning. And he rushes Yusuke with it. It's called Storm of Torment. Yusuke dodges it, but just being near the electricity crackling around it, he's electrocuted. And this is not the first time Yusuke will be electrocuted in this fight. It's pretty insane, and the screams this boy gives out, oof, my goodness. This was just him being grazed by a Storm of Torment hand. So now Yusuke's in a dire strait because what the fuck is he supposed to do against a guy who's literally hitting him with lightning? So Yusuke takes his school shoes off and uses them as gloves. This is a time to note that everyone's fan favorite bad guy sidekick Meguru, this giant bird demon, or this bird demon, not giant, she's a bird demon that hangs out and just hypes up Suzaku. She's like, oh, you think you're so smart, human. And a lot of people wonder why Meguru is there. My assumption is it kind of goes along with the lore of like the phoenix, because Suzaku is supposed to represent the vermilion bird, aka like a phoenix or something like that. And his design doesn't really show it as much. Like maybe like his antenna kind of like mimic like wings or something that you would see on a bird or a phoenix. But Meguru kind of does, because she herself is a bird. But there is another technique that we see later from Suzaku that kind of represents the idea of reincarnation like a phoenix that we'll see in a bit. But I think that's why Togashi made Meguru because of that. But she's just really annoying. She just talks shit. She doesn't do anything in the fight. So Suzaku's like, you're gonna die, your girlfriend's gonna die, you ain't got no chance. And it looks like Keiko and Botan are gonna get taken out, but you know it's always darkest before the dawn. And Yusuke has faith in Keiko. And as Keiko and Botan bust through these enemies, laying them out with whatever they can, broomsticks, heavy hand slaps, whatever they can do, Yusuke and Suzaku are throwing down. And as Suzaku goes in for another storm of torment, Yusuke blocks it with his rubber shoes. But as the shoes immediately break, what was hidden underneath? His spirit energy. He was hiding that he was charging up his energy with his shoes. He played Suzaku, landing a punch on him. So now it looks like the tables are turning and flipping in the Yusuke's favor, as well as Keiko's. Keiko looks like she's gonna make it. But things aren't always as they seem, as Suzaku, momentarily shocked and impressed, informs Yusuke that he doesn't have a chance, showing off one of my favorite techniques we see in Yu Yu Hakusho, the Prism of 7. Suzaku is able to make 6 clones of himself, something that you might see in like Naruto or Dragon Ball Z. Well, not Naruto yet, this is before Naruto. But, you know, something like Dragon Ball Z, like when Tien would use his multi-technique. The difference being in Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, when Tien would do that multi-form technique, he would weaken his power. So he could make like 5 clones, but they all would be individually weaker than just an overall Tien. These clones are exact copies of Suzaku. They are just as strong and durable. So it's even different from Naruto's Shadow Clones, because I don't think the Shadow Clones are as durable. They can be as powerful as Naruto. They're solid clones, but I don't think they're as durable. I think they get poofed really easily. Whereas Suzaku's Prism of 7, they're 6 perfect clones. Now, this is to say one moves better than the other. I'm just noting the differences between clone techniques in anime. Now, it doesn't take too long before Suzaku does his ultimate move with the Prism of 7. They all fire electric Storm of Torment arrows at Yusuke at the same time, calling it the Prism Storm of Torment. So Yusuke does his best to try to block them with his Spirit Energy Fist, trying to punch and avoid the arrows, but one does in fact graze past his shoulder. This scene sticks with me a lot, because the way they animated it is genius. Yusuke gets hit by this grazing arrow over his shoulder, kind of like cleanly shoots through. And from that one arrow, not even all 7, the screen goes like black. Yusuke is electrocuted and he is screaming in horror for like a good 3 to 5 seconds. Before it stops, he looks fried, he's on the ground. It sticks with me so heavy because Suzaku didn't even land a direct hit. Because had he did, Yusuke would probably be dead. Like, that's how crucial this fight was getting at this point. Now, as Yusuke is laid out on the ground, Suzaku sits in his chair, has the clones pick him up, hold him as they all watch on the monitor. Keiko's struggling to live, Botan's hurt, she's almost passed out, and they're steady electrocuting Yusuke. Like, not enough to just kill him or make him pass out instantly, but enough that he's constantly feeling pain. So now Yusuke is brought to this hopeless situation, this dire situation. He's gonna watch the girl he loves and cares about the most die. He's gonna watch his assistant die. The boys are outside struggling to get up to the tower to where he is to help them, but these cultivated humans are still blocking their path. It looks like they're not gonna make it this time. And that's when Yusuke starts hearing Genkai. You know, Genkai's voice back from her training echoing through Yusuke's mind. And this is where we get over one of the first hurdles in Yusuke's character development. It's already noted that Yusuke powers up from, you know, the classic trope of like, my friends are in danger, I need to be strong enough. Oh, you hurt my friends, it looks like I'm going to be more powerful. And that is a trope in a lot of shonen anime, but I feel like Yu Yu Hakusho does it the best when it comes to Yusuke, in my opinion. If not the best, it's one of the best portrayals of that trope, because it's so deeply ingrained in Yusuke's character. Not just the fact that like, oh yeah, his friends are in danger, so he gets stronger, but it's a part of his arc. Yusuke is noted to not really wear his emotions on his sleeve, besides, you know, the general being pissed off or something like that. But, you know, this softer side of him, he has this wall blocking his emotions. And it's noted initially, like the first time, like very straightforward and clear, it's noted by Genkai as they flash back to the training. Yusuke's tired. He says he barely has energy left. He can't hold on. And as Genkai's berating him, saying like, you know, you got to try harder. You're being lazy. You're not doing enough. You got to put your all into something. She notes that Yusuke seems to be scared to put his all into something because if it doesn't work out, he doesn't want to feel that sense of failure. So, you know, he acts like that delinquent because, you know, he's naturally talented at fighting. He's a natural born street fighter. That's great. All this natural talent, but that means nothing in the face of like someone who's truly put in the work. And Genkai's noting to him like, hey, you can't just keep playing at this like it's a game. Like, yeah, you can get lucky, but you can't always rely on that luck. You have to really put your all into something. You can't be afraid to not do it in case things don't work out. And Yusuke, you know, starts feeling personally attacked by this. He starts yelling that people are always pushing him around. People are always telling him what to do. And this kind of relates back to the start of the season where Yusuke felt like the whole town was against him. He couldn't fit in at school. People were always on his ass. His mom was even on him, and his mom's like this drunk. Keiko's always on him. He feels like he doesn't belong, and so he's lashing out. And as he does this, he leaps into the air, but this big leap of energy, and he's charging up a spirit gun. And Genkai then remarks, see, you had all that energy left, and you didn't want to do it. You're even doing your training like everything else, half-assed, proving Genkai's point, pissing Yusuke off even further. Genkai then lays his ass out on the ground, and, you know, she's just like, you have to put your heart into something. You have to do it. And Yusuke starts to think, like, what am I fighting for? Like, what is the point? Like, they need me. Keiko needs my help now. So he puts his all into it. He breaks off from the Suzaku clones holding him down, and he fires off a shotgun, hitting all 7 Suzakus at once, killing 6 of them, and laying out our main Suzaku on the ground. It looks like Yusuke can be successful, but that last shot drained him of all his energy. So he's crawling over to pick up the whistle, and Meguru picks it up. Meguru not trying to let Yusuke get his hands on it. Yusuke then points his spirit gun at her. She does the finger pose to do it, and Meguru's like, you don't have enough energy, you just said you used it all. And Yusuke's like, yeah, not enough to fight 7 Suzakus, but enough to deep fry a smart-ass bird. So Yusuke is doing what we like to call a bluff, as noted as Koenma and George are watching the fight. George is impressed that Yusuke was able to store enough energy, noting that, wow, look at that growth. He would have burned his energy all out in one shot before. And Koenma's like, well, no, he did. He did do that. He's bluffing. And it looks like it might work, but then Suzaku has enough time to recover and get the flute back, noting that Yusuke has no energy left. But Yusuke's saying Suzaku doesn't either, so it looks like the playing field's evened out. Not quite. This is just not quite. Suzaku then does this reincarnation thing I was telling you guys about. The prism of restoration. He takes the bodies, the lifeless bodies of these Suzakus, and takes whatever energy they had left in them to heal his own main body, thus almost fully recovering. But since he gained all that energy back, guess what he can do again? The Prism of 7, thus reforming a fresh pack of 6 clones. He then fires off another Prism of Torment, Prism Storm of Torment, Yusuke taking the blows and smacking into the wall, but none of the hits seem to be direct. Suzaku starts to question this, wondering why that is. Why hasn't his attack killed Yusuke? Then he sees it. One of his antennas is cracked. It's damaged. He says he even dipped them in thick armor so that this wouldn't happen, yet they still were hurt, noting back to when he punched Yusuke's spirit gun at the start of the fight. That's when it got damaged. It grazed him. He was surprised that Yusuke was strong enough to do that. And we even get more notes of this, like, see, Togashi planned Yusuke to be a demon all along. Because as Yusuke keeps getting up and keeps using this power, Yusuke starts going as far as to even use his own life energy to make sure he gives it his all, and make sure he can fight and save Keiko, and make sure everything will work out. He's willing to give up his own life. Suzaku sees this as insane. He's like, whatever you are, you're not human. Like, so a lot of fans like to take this and say, see, Togashi was laying hints that Yusuke was part demon. Again, I don't think this is the case, but I'll talk about that a little later. So, Yusuke and Suzaku go for their final confrontation, their final clash. Meanwhile, Keiko and Botan look like they're not gonna make it. They're surrounded. Botan's down. Keiko's begging for help. Yusuke's giving it his all to stop Suzaku. Kurama, Kuwabara, and Hiei have made it past all the cultivated humans. They're making their way up the tower to go help Yusuke, and they get to the top in time to see this final confrontation as Yusuke fires a burst of energy with his life energy, killing all 7 Suzaku clones, as the Suzaku clones use the Prism Storm of Torment. And he breaks the whistle, and as a bonus to all you fans, he kills Meguru. Maguru's fucking dead. Hey, yeah. So, the top of the castle blows apart. So now they're just in the rubble, laying on top of the top of the castle spire. Yusuke's laid out, looking like he's almost dead. Suzaku barely holding on. And the dub, Suzaku's just like, I see. It's your feelings that give you power. At last I understand, human. And then Suzaku dies. With the Four Saint Beasts defeated, the Makai Whistle destroyed, it looks like our boys have saved the day, but it also looks like there was a cost. Yusuke doesn't seem like he'll make it, Kurama noting that he used his life energy for that last attack, and he won't be able to survive for much longer. Kuwabara then states that he'll give him some of his own life energy to keep him alive. Kurama saying that's not very smart, because you could die from it too, but Kuwabara, being the coolest fucking dude ever, states that Yusuke, Urameshi, and him gotten this thing together, and they're getting out of it together. Kuwabara gives him some of his life energy, enough to keep him alive, as well as himself, but now they're both passed out. Hiei being annoyed at the fact they have to carry them back home. Yusuke wakes up, it's been a few days later. Kuwabara and Kurama note that they, stopped the Makai Whistle, they beat the Four Saint Beast, and the problem was solved. But Yusuke then is like, what happened to Keiko and Botan? And Kuwabara and Kurama get quiet. They have a serious, sad look on their faces. Yusuke's begging them to know what happened to Keiko and Botan. They remain quiet. Yusuke starts yelling even louder, what happened to them? Then they enter the room. Fine, unharmed, perfectly okay. Yusuke was able to destroy the whistle before Keiko and Botan could be swarmed upon by these infected people. Kuwabara and Kurama laughing that they, played Yusuke's emotions, to get that reaction out of him. Kurama saying, I'm sorry, Yusuke. Kuwabara, talked me into it. And this is where I gotta note, I love the relationship and the bond that these characters have. Hiei is not there. Hiei went home. Uh, but the bond that the characters share is really touching, especially like when you see like these smaller relationships. We often pair up Yusuke and Kuwabara and Kurama and Hiei because, you know, Yusuke and Kuwabara have known each other for a long time. Kurama and Hiei have known each other for a long time. But we forget about these other relationships intertwined between them. Like, Kuwabara and Kurama have, like, a really cool, like, friendship. I really enjoy their moments together. Kurama being very understanding of Kuwabara's kind of, like, straightforwardness. And, like, seeing that Kuwabara's not really, like, dumb, but he's just kind of very, like, straightforward, like simple-minded in the head with ideas. He's not dumb, but he doesn't think a lot of things through. But he's still very friendly to Kuwabara. Kuwabara, like, really feeling comfortable around Kuwabara or Kurama and talking with him. It's things like that I find really nice and makes the characters feel like friends and feel like people. So after this scene, Yusuke and Keiko are walking. Keiko saying, "Botan told me everything." And Yusuke trying to say he's sorry, but Keiko saying, "Look, next time promise me when you have to go on one of these cases, you just let me know, Yusuke. I'm worried about you." And Yusuke again apologizes as he walks off, Keiko noting that he did not promise anything, and the arc concludes. So that is our little summary of the Four Saint Beast arc. Again, if you want all the nitty-gritty details, go ahead and watch the 8 episodes of the anime. It's episodes 14 through 21, and read the 12 chapters of the manga, those being chapters 33 through 44. But now, let's get through these differences, and I'll go over my overall thoughts, and I'll try not to make this video much longer. Much longer. So, differences are kind of similar to what we discussed in the last arc, just small things in between, and I feel like the Four Saint Beast arc in the anime just adds, in general, additional, like, fleshed out scenes to the fights and to them walking around the castle and other little things like that to make the arc feel a little more fuller. I feel like we don't start getting arcs with this full, like, this is a story arc feeling until the Dark Tournament in Chapter Black. So the anime was kind of compensating that for the Four Saint Beast. The manga arc for the Four Saint Beast is still fine, but I feel like the anime fleshes it out a bit more. But there are differences. One of the many being Botan's outfit. Botan is not wearing the jacket, leather pants combo in the anime, or in the manga. She has kind of like this like torn sleeve t-shirt and like jeans. It kind of looks more like a Rambo-esque character, which I guess that might have been the vibe they were going for with all these infected insects going around. But she did have the baseball bat still and the spray and da-da-da-da-da. One thing I want to note is the amount of time Yusuke was gone. Earlier I said in the anime's dub, they say 6 months. In the sub, they say it's a month. In the manga, it says 2 weeks. I don't know why there's such drastic differences between Yusuke's training with Genkai, but there you have it, folks. We still get the shotgun scene. One notable difference is Yusuke's not wearing his school uniform at this point. He kind of has like a t-shirt. Maybe he is wearing more like a summery school uniform, while Kuwabara just still wears the straight up blue school uniform. Keiko is not with Kuwabara and Yusuke when they're walking around talking and catching up, and then when the thugs appear, Yusuke just kind of meets with Kuwabara after saying hi to Keiko when he returns. We don't see a secret entrance being opened up for Yusuke and Kuwabara to jump through to get into the Demon City towards May's castle. The manga just cuts away to like a few hours later. The two of them are just on the outskirts of the Demon City towards May's castle. In the Fugaki scene where Kurama and Hiei show up, instead of them appearing as flashes of light, they were disguised as these Fugaki, and they scare a lot of them off and away from Yusuke and Kuwabara. During the chat, Kuwabara and Hiei have a smaller exchange. It's not as detailed as it is in the anime, but there's still that animosity there. And it's shown that as the four are walking towards May's castle, the Fugaki make a path for them, like shocked that demons like Hiei and Kurama would team up with humans. The Gate of Betrayal is essentially the same thing, the key difference being that there is no boulder that will come down to crush you if you pull the lever. The Genbu fight, pretty much the same fight. Difference being the anime fleshes out details a little more to make it a longer fight worth an episode. It's a short one. All the fights are pretty short besides Yusuke and Kuwabara's, and even Kuwabara's isn't super long. It's more so split into different parts, like the parts where he fights the 4 like demon beast, the parts where he fights Byakuya the first time and is draining his energy, and the part where he fights over the lava with the tiger screen. Yusuke's fight is like the most detailed one, which makes sense because he's fighting Suzaku. But yeah, Kurama's fight is just fleshed out a little more. Same thing with Kuwabara. It's just fleshed out a little more, adds a little more dramatic tension. It feels a little bit more, I don't want to say comedic, but there is a more lighthearted feeling of that fight in the manga, besides some panels showing Byakuya looking like this fierce demonic beast, which when Togashi wants to draw, he draws his ass off. It looks amazing. Seiryu's fight is fucking laughable in the manga. It is even shorter than the anime. You know how in the anime where Hiei is at least at first like dodging all the ice attacks before he does the 16 slashes? That does not even happen in the manga. They do the whole stare down. Seiryu still does the whole thing, freezes Byakuya, spitting on his head. All that still happens. But when the fight starts, we have this really cool like 2-page spread of them about to collide, about to like fight. They're standing off. And then when you flip the page, he has already chopped this man's head off, or split this man's like face in half, and has already cut him the other 15 times, and he splits apart and dies. That is it. Seiryu got 0 love in the manga. The anime studio is like, well, we gotta make it longer than that. We got a time slot to fill. Keiko's school uniform is different in the manga. She's wearing a summer uniform instead of her normal school uniform that we see throughout the manga. So yeah, going back, I guess Yusuke was wearing a summer uniform, and I guess Kuwabara gives no fucks about summer school uniforms. He's wearing his blue jacket. The fight with Suzaku and Yusuke, again, more details happen in the anime. It fleshes it out more to make it feel more like a full-fledged major antagonist story arc fight. But also some things are flip-flopped around. The point where Suzaku realizes his antenna is cracked isn't until the very, very end of the fight in the manga. Like, after they do their final, like, clash and the whistle's destroyed and he's about to die, he realizes, oh no, my antenna was cracked. Whereas we get the scene with Suzaku realizing it just before Yusuke uses his life energy. And I do kind of like that a little more in the anime, because I do love the way the line is delivered, where Suzaku's like, all this time, I halfway missed! Like, all those times he was, like, grazing Yusuke that we see throughout the entire fight, like, that wasn't exactly intentional on Suzaku's part. He was off because his antenna was damaged by Yusuke's spirit gun. So yes, Yusuke did have a sense of luck in this fight because of that, but it was his spirit gun that did the damage to begin with. Also, my boy gave his life to win this fight, so he getting that W clean. So, but I do love that line of like, all this time I halfway missed. The skip to like them waking up, or Yusuke waking up at Kuwabara's house after the arc went down, pretty much the same. And yeah, so that's pretty much the arc. There's not a lot of manga anime differences. It's very small things like that. If I'm forgetting anything else, it's just because it's very slight. It's very slight things like that. But I think it helps the arc more so in the anime to have those things fleshed out. The only differences that I would like is I would like Keiko's summer uniform. It just makes more sense that this was supposed to be taking place around that time. Maybe show Yusuke in the summer uniform, but I guess they wanted Yusuke and Kuwabara to match up with the jackets, because also later when they go to the Demon City in the manga, Yusuke's wearing his green uniform. He's wearing his normal school uniform. Before he had like black pants and like a white button-up t-shirt, or not button-up t-shirt, white button-up shirt, like he was wearing a summer uniform or something like that. So maybe like differences like that. Keep Botan's outfit in the anime. It's fucking awesome. But yeah, those are pretty much it. So for the differences. So now I'll just give my overall thoughts. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. I know we're running a late one tonight, guys. So have another drink on me, and we'll finish this arc up. So I don't think I need to give my overall thoughts on the arc, because throughout this I've clearly stated how much I enjoy this arc. This one's really, really fun to me. It's not as good as the Dark Tournament in Chapter Black from, like, you know, just an overall story writing point, but it's fun, and I think that's why a lot of people find it as being like one of their favorites later down the line when they rewatch or reread Yu Yu Hakusho. They find like this arc was fun. This was a good time. It was just like this classic shonen story arc of like we're rolling up. Here's the squad. Here's the enemies. We're gonna fight these dudes 1v1 me, you know, one at a time. It has that classic shonen feel. And where I said last time with the rando arc, that's when Yu Yu Hakusho started to really feel like a shonen. This arc just kind of emphasizes that feeling of being a shonen, because this is like classic shonen battle manga type stuff for a story arc, and it's very simple, very straightforward story. But I feel like the thing that really carries it and makes it feel special are the characters. You have Kurama, Hiei, Kuwabara, and Yusuke, and they all feel very different from each other, but they all have this synergy and this sense of like a group dynamic that feels really nice, especially when you compare it to the lack of a group dynamic the Four Saint Beast have, which I think might have been intentional on Togashi's part, to have like you have Yusuke and the crew who aren't like super tight. They know each other for the most part. Kuwabara just being introduced to Kurama and Hiei, but even still, like, they're not super tight, but they still kind of have like this sense of honor and respect for each other, enough so to let them fight the 1v1s, let them, you know, have that honor of doing that, being concerned about each other's well-being throughout these fights. Whereas the Four Saint Beasts would just be like, every time before one went out, they'd be like, "Suzaku, sir, let me go." And Genbu would die, and Byaku was just like, "Genbu was a weakling, we only used him for this, I'll go." And then Seiryu just like, "Genbu and Byaku were useless, we used them as pawns." And then Seiryu says that because he gets immediately fucking bodied. And then when we get to Suzaku versus Yusuke, Suzaku doesn't even like say anything about them. I think he mentions to Meguru one time like, "All my men are dead." But he's more so mad that they're dead because like, oh my god, now these guys are gonna come for me. They're so annoying. He seemed more annoyed at the fact that he would have to like do something rather than like the fact that his men are dead. I don't think he gave a fuck about them. And that was the hierarchy for the Saint Beast. Whereas with the team, we see notable moments like when Kurama gets slashed by Genbu's tail that initial time. Immediately the team is worried. Yusuke's extreme concern for Kuwabara throughout the fight with Byaku. Hiei, the team being worried about Hiei, at least in the anime wise, I didn't have enough time to be worried about him in the fucking manga, but Hiei's shift in character in general, actually having like that sense of honor to feel disgusted by Seiryu's actions. And of course, you know, Yusuke's overall development, getting over that first hurdle of emotions. He's putting his all into things, but he's still quite not there, as we're going to see, especially once we get to the Dark Tournament. There's still that wall blocking him. But at least now he's willing to give his everything to fight. So that's one step forward. So you have that group dynamic and that bond in these characters. Kurama, we get introduced to him in combat for the first time. This is the first time we see him fight. And this is his style of fighting. He likes to kind of draw to fight a little bit to make sure he understands the mechanisms and the workings of his opponent's attacks and abilities, even if it does put him in harm's way, even if it does get him critically injured. Because once he pinpoints the weakness that you have and he can exploit that, he pretty much has you dead. He's already beaten you at that point. But he does put his body in harm's way a lot of the time. He even notes in the manga, like, damn, this is the second time my stomach's been injured, because Hiei stabbed him back in the Three Monsters arc. So it's just like, this isn't the last time Kurama's winning fights while being injured. And it's something that's very notable about Kurama's character, that something's going to need to change, that eventually there's going to be this strength gap between him and an opponent that he cannot close by putting his life at risk like that. He's gonna have to take it a step forward further and do more. And then you have, you know, a character like Hiei, who I have already noted went through that character shift of being like this really just thuggishly bad dude, just like, I want to rule the world and look at my Jagan eye in that demon form, which is another reason why he doesn't use that demon form. I think one of the excuses about it is later, like, he just has stronger abilities than doing that green form with all the eyes on his body. He just gains stronger attacks, but that really isn't until the Dark Tournament. So the excuse for him not using it, well, then again, because the only other time he would have used it in May's Castle, and Seiryu was too weak to even have that be used, so that's a good reason why he didn't use that form either. But and in like outside of the story, it's because that form isn't really suited for like a good guy type of character, and not to call Hiei like a goody good guy, but like he's one of the 4 protagonists now, so that form's not really fitting, so it's kind of just forgotten about. But if you want to find like in lore reasons, I think that's why. Like for Saint Beastar, he didn't really have a need to use it because Seiryu was such a pushover. He doesn't really fight a major villain in the Yukino rescue. And then by the time we get to the Dark Tournament, he has his true brand spanking new signature technique that he goes over his own little character arc with. So there's no need for that form anymore. Technically isn't the last time we'll see it. It's the last time we'll see it in canon. It's something we'll talk about later. But yeah, he has become more of this person to, even if he says he's a criminal and he's going to continue to commit crimes even after this, he has this sense of respect for Yusuke, Kurama, and even to a small extent, Kuwabara. And he has that honor to not act like that much of an asshole towards them anymore. He doesn't seem like he wants to be that guy. He wants to be better in a sense, and that's because Yusuke's actions did sort of rub off on him. So that's really cool, and you get more sprinkles of that throughout the series of Hiei's character growth. He tries to be that dude to the side, who's not a part of the team, but he's a part of the team, and eventually he does kind of accept that more so. The GOAT, Kuwabara, what more can you say? My guy is goated with the sauce. I'm just like, he proved himself to an extreme extent this arc, and this is like one of the first major times it really feeds into me saying Kuwabara fights best when he utilizes his abilities. Before, at the start of the fight, he was just swinging his sword around like a baseball bat, and it wasn't really doing much. He couldn't land a shot, but he started utilizing his powers in creative ways. I think Kuwabara probably is the most creative of the 4 when it comes to like ways he can use his abilities. He speared the 4 beasts when he got them to be lined up. He chained them in a loop so they couldn't get out. He realized that Byakuya had a cap on the energy he could eat and overfed him. He used his sword as a pole vault to get across the lava. His sixth sense to help them find the right door. Like, Kuwabara came in clutch. I'm not gonna lie. You can't hate the man for that. He did the damn thing, and it was impressive. And that's because he relied on his abilities. There are still gonna be times. There's still plenty of times where Kuwabara is not gonna rely on his powers, and his ego is gonna get in the way, and it's going to show the fault in Kuwabara. But when he's using his powers to their fullest extent, that's when he really shines. And that's something he needs to understand about himself. I think Kuwabara's on this path of like what it means to be a man. And he still isn't, as of this point, he still isn't quite there, but there's those glimpses of it. It's kind of like with Yusuke getting past his emotions. He's not past that wall to like, you know, his true emotions that can lead to that true power he can tap into, but he is on the right path now that he's giving it his all, as I noted several times with his fight against Suzaku. And I think that's impressive. And just to touch on the demon thing, we had that moment with the Gate of Betrayal where his energy was red when he was holding up the gate. We have that moment where Suzaku's just like, there's no way you're human. I don't know what you are, but you're not human. So a lot of people take this as Togashi leaving breadcrumbs as to Yusuke being part demon. And I have a few reasons why I disagree with this. One, there isn't really any energy around Yusuke in the manga when he's holding up the wall, and even if there is, if I recall, there isn't. But even if there was, it wouldn't be in color, so we wouldn't know if it was red or not in the manga. Also, I don't think Suzaku says that "Are you human?" line in the manga. If he does, it's probably only in the English translation. But even if he does, like, even then, bare minimum, let's say he does, like, that's just the line. That line is just a line. I think people are reading a little too deeply into it. I don't think Togashi had Yusuke planned out from the start to be a deep part demon. I think it's more so happy little accidents that writers can take advantage of. There can be things in a story that have happened, and you kind of take notes of that, and you can use that to be like, you know what? I can use this and this and form this story idea. And it seems to work out, especially on stories that are already pretty well established for your plot. Like, if you already have a plot in mind, and as you're writing it, you can fill in smaller gaps with these newer details as you go along, because you already have a core structure. So that's easier to do. So maybe Togashi had core structures in mind for at least a little bit ahead of each story arc. And then he kind of just took these ideas and we're like, okay, we'll just make Yusuke part demon. When it comes to the anime, I think literally just happy coincidences that are super cool coincidences, though. Like with the red energy, because a lot of early Yu Yu Hakusho has energies just colored whatever. But as we get later into the series, people have like specific colored spirit energies. Like Yusuke's spirit energy is usually always blue. A lot of people who just have spirit energy, like just regular like Reiki, usually have it be blue, maybe orange, like in Kuwabara's case it's like that orangish yellow color, but it's very consistent. Whereas you have like someone like Karama or Hiei who have like darker colored, like because they have demon energy, they have yoki, because they're like yokai in the manga, so it's more of like a purplish color or a reddish color. So I don't think it's intentional. I just think it's like they weren't being consistent enough with the animation yet. But by the time we get to like Yukina Rescue especially, like it's a lot more consistent with how things are supposed to look. So those are my thoughts on it. Other characters, Botan was awesome. Botan to the fucking rescue, bro. She was out on the streets with a baseball bat thwacking these dudes. You gotta respect it. Keiko, I appreciate Keiko heavily in this arc because she did not give up to the bitter end. Even though, like, you know, Botan was injured and she could have left her, and Botan was like, you should leave me, da 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 da. She's like, I'm not gonna abandon you, Botan. And Botan wasn't gonna abandon her because they were after Keiko. They weren't really after Botan. She could have broke off from her and been fine. So I appreciate that the girls did the damn thing and they held on. I know people are just like, I mean, they don't give a... They're not main characters, guys. So at the very least, I can appreciate the fact that even though they're like supporting female cast, they still do a lot, and it is impactful to the series, and it does keep people going. You know, without Botan's actions and involvement, Keiko would have been dead. And if Keiko would have abandoned Botan, Botan would have possibly been dead. So it works out for them. Genkai, she was just a flashback voice, but them words stung. They cut deep and they spoke true. Koema and George, they didn't really do a lot. We're going to see them do a lot more, especially in the... We see a lot of side characters do a lot more in the Dark Tournament and Chapter Black. Koema especially. So we'll talk more about him when we get to those points. But yeah, they were there. They were comedic relief in the back. You know the stick. And then how do I feel about the Four Saint Beast? The only ones I really care about are Byakuya and Suzaku. Suzaku's cool. I really actually like Suzaku. See, if I was gonna see more of any like season 1 demon, it would probably be Suzaku. I know a lot of people will say Rando. I don't really care about Rando. Suzaku was kind of cool though, bro. My boy was taming lightning. My boy had his ambitions. He's like, humans are disgusting. Humans just kill each other. Sensui would have been like, that nigga spitting. So there's quirks to Suzaku I enjoy, and I also really like his power system. Like, yeah, Rando had 99 techniques. I don't really care about that. I more so gravitate to characters with like a set power structure. Like, because it feels more true to the character. It feels more like endearing. Like Yusuke, when you think Yusuke, you think of the spirit gun, you think of shotgun. When you think of Kuwabara, you think of him using the spirit sword and stretching it around and pole vaulting and all that. Like, you think of those things with the characters. Like Rando, yeah, he has 99 techniques, but none of them are his. None of them are special to him. And he's not an interesting character, so it all kind of falls flat to me. Whereas Suzaku has this set amount of moves, but like he can literally call upon lightning and mix it with his demon energy. He can make clones to do the same thing. He can absorb those clones to heal himself and then reincarnate the clones like a phoenix. You see how it flows? Like, that's cool. Genbu was a cool intro villain to the arc because that was an interesting ability he had, mixing in with the stone. But as far as the character goes, he was very generic. It was more so the ability and for Kurama to flex, which he did, so that stood out for the fight. Same thing with Seiryu. Seiryu was an asshole, and he deserved what he got. It was just, he was literally made for Hiei to flex. Byakuya actually had a character, and I found it really interesting that he would not go down, but Kuwabara is the type that does not go down, so it kind of matched up, so I kind of really enjoyed that. But all in all, that is the arc, guys. This is the longest video I've done yet, but we did have a lot more ground to cover than we have before. I know we had like a bunch of manga chapters to cover before, but even then I feel like that was a lot more straightforward because they were like more short stories rather than like a drawn out story arc. So for this one, we had like 8 episodes of anime and 12 chapters of manga to cover, so it was a lot more to get through, a little more dense. We have more character dynamics going on, more details to discuss. But that is going to conclude tonight. I will be closing up shop. And remember, I should have the next file ready by June 3rd. Don't take it as an exact promise. Anything could happen and get in the way of that. But ideally, I should have it done. The Yukina Rescue arc's not very long at all, so it shouldn't take me that long to finish. I can rewatch it tonight, in fact, after I finish recording. Just rewatch those 4 episodes, and then tomorrow when I get home from work, just read through the manga again, and I can start writing that script, have it recorded, and start doing all that other details and stuff, and have it ready by June 3rd for you guys. But I'm not going to make this video any longer. Closing up shop. Thank you guys so much for the support. I hope you continue showing me support. Please spread the word. Let people know if they're interested in Yu Yu Hakusho. Like, follow, subscribe, all that bullshit for the YouTube gods. Leave a comment. Much love to you guys. Have a good night. Get home safe. I've been Detective K, and this was Ghost Files Declassified.
Move this